Good afternoon, Scott Redler T3 Live. Welcome to today's recap, the last full day of trading before Christmas. And yes, everyone's talking about the Santa Claus rally, but I do think the market might have stolen a little bit out of his big, whatever it is he has in the back satchel last week, before actually he starts on his sleigh, coming in tomorrow night if he could avoid the rain and the snow. So with that being said, today was day 5 of a rally that started last week. Wednesday, Thursday had some power. Friday had option expiration, was a little tricky. And then today probably felt like one of the trickiest, least constructive, or probably just, if I could say a bad word, crappy. It felt like a very crappy rally today, forced because they wanted to wear the Dow 18,000 hats. So today was one of those days where hopefully you sold some strength, you didn't get caught, you made some money on a cute short, or maybe even didn't get stubborn, as some things that have been broken have been the best acting stocks the last day or two. So, who would have thunk it? Anyway, let's just go right to the charts, right to the levels. Here's the S&P, okay? Looks very familiar, right? Here is your V bottom that never really stopped. But you had this break of the 8-day right there. And then here is your next V bottom into the Fed. Then with some power, reclaimed all the moving averages, and we're a little extended from them. So what do we do today? We pushed above the prior high, came off those highs. Can we have a down day tomorrow? Maybe, considering where we come from, 1980 all the way up to, 2000, what was the high here? 86. That's almost 100 handles in 5 days. So being extended from the 8 and 21 day makes it less compelling to have longs. Doesn't mean that shorts are working either. Some, yes, they are, but, it's also tricky. So, the next 2 sessions, I would write down see if we hold above the prior high, which is around 2079. We could probably push a little bit below it, who knows? And then write down 2000, what is this right here? This is 2068. Let me just move this over so my mouse doesn't get sticky. That's about 2068. And I think overall, I'd be very surprised if at some point we do come back below 2060. Before maybe, sometime in January, if that even happens. But right now you have this V bottom, extended, little digestion would be good. You look at the diamonds we talked about today. Hey, look at that. Dow 18,000. Last time when everybody was looking for it right here, we had the big pullback below the 8-day. Now that everyone is kind of, got off balance and the consensus got wrong again, now we did it pretty much with ease. So with that being said, a little bit of a doji today. Okay, not an extreme sell-off or whatever. Now see, if we could hold this gap and go sideways, if we hold this gap and digest, and a little digestion would go a long way, we probably continue. But again, whenever you're really extended from the 8 and 21 day, it makes new buys a little tough. So stocks, high beta stays mixed. During the corrective phase, I really focused a lot on Apple, BABA, and Facebook because they held up best. And those were the ones that you want to go to, the stocks that hold up best in the beginning of a move. Like we saw last week, I went with the spiders, I went with some ETFs, some banks, but those were the tech stocks that I went with. And Apple, it's a little lethargic. It's, I guess rightly so, it's had a huge move. You remember way back when my, iPhone to head call, right here, I said it would go to 100, and that was wound up working out real well. The next big call was saying it would go to 113 on this gap up after earnings, and then ever since breaking this 8-day, it's been correcting. So at this point, you have a middle range here, and it would be nice if it holds for a few sessions above this 110.50, and then at some point, takes out this inside range and continues higher. But it's been very lethargic. So if you want to have small size here, have small size. If we see something change and it gets a little bit feisty above 1349, you could always add. One of the other stocks I was focused on was BABA. It looked good. It had a descending channel. It didn't make new lows when the market made new lows last week. We had a really good trade above 107.50, went above 110, and it seemed as if it could break 111. But it had a big lockup. It had a negative article. So yesterday, those on the VTF saw me get out of the stock. Yes, if it doesn't act well, I can get out. Okay, that means the market didn't confirm the thesis. And if you got out yesterday, you didn't even have to worry about 107.50 today. So if you look at BABA now, it needs a little time. Okay, you had the same type of descending channel, okay, coming in like this, and it basically held the prior breakout. So right here, this trade looked really good. This looked like an A setup, right? A setup, clear 107.50, off to the races. Okay, you had this day. It still was not that powerful, but gave you a decent day. Then you had this day that it actually reversed when the market was strong, giving you one little signal that it wasn't that strong. And then you had, this was option expiration. And then yesterday when the market was really strong and closed in the low, so that got me out of the stock, but not my options. I still thought, okay, maybe it holds in here. I'm not going to overtrade it. I'll be in some 110 calls for January and let it work itself out. So if you happen to stay in it and say, listen, I'm not as precise as Red Dog, I could hold some pain. Trade hasn't changed yet. Maybe they're trying to fake me out. When it broke below this, you had some time. Some actually even on the VTF got shorted. Why not, right? It broke 107.50. You could do that. And then within this time period, I got out of my options because now I got to wait. Okay, and at this point, I don't know exactly what the next step is here, but technically it wasn't able to absorb the lockup. You now have big support going across this way. You really don't need to be long any type of size for momentum until it gets back above that, or perhaps it goes sideways a little bit and then we get a new level. But at this point, I am not in BABA. I'm going to wait. Wait for it to tell me it's ready for better action. I remember in here a few times, I think I made the BABA to butt call for 120 right around here. Didn't work there, got in, got out. Didn't work here, got in, got out. And then finally it cleared here, and I think we held this move till there, and then got back in on the nice little bull flag for the move to probably, I think, around here is where I got out, and then missed this last little stage, but who cares? And then you had the 120 Red Dog reversal, and since then, you know, it's still building. We'll see what happens come New Year. You know, Facebook, which I was long yesterday and sold because it had a 4-day move, and you know what I do, on day 3 or 4, I'm usually done with it. And then if you have a day 5, everyone says, Red Dog, you sell too early, but meanwhile, it's always trickier on day 5. You know, and Facebook, after a really nice move, because that's what it had, right? This was a nice move, you know, above this area, got a little extended. So it traded above a prior high. So if you were still in it and said, Red Dog, I'm going to stay in this thing until it tells me to get out, because yesterday it did not tell you to get out, it closed near the highs, but today it opened up above, came back below 81.89, so that was your sell stop. Get out. If you don't hold the prior high and you're looking for momentum, momentum left. Now it closed in the lows, still extended from the 8-day, let it come up, and I will look to be a buyer of this. I would think if this is any good, it does not want to get probably below 79. I would even be I'd be kind of shocked if that even happens. You know, maybe it tries to defend 80. But as of right now, first sell signal, we'll see if we can rebuy it back. Great tactical trade. Twitter also reversed today. Twitter gave you a nice 4 or 5 day trade. And then when you see a Red Dog reversal, which is what you had today, or an outside day, especially in a broken name, you had your double bottom here. Okay, and then you had day 1, 2, 3, 4. It was on day 5. Everyone's like, Red Dog, you're missing it. I'm like, it's day 5. I don't care. You know what? Broke above, came back below a prior high, closed in the lows. Once it got above it, came back here. That was your sell signal. You could have, you know, bought it and trailed it the entire way until seeing this. Now we'll see what's next. You know, so that's what you do when you have, you know, a stock below the moving averages and technically not so great. But anyway, that was your signal. That's how you use it. Everyone sometimes says, Red Dog, how do you use a Red Dog reversal to get out of a good long, or maybe look for a cute short after a few days? Well, it happened today in Twitter. Take a look at that. LinkedIn, what'd you do today? Got upgraded today. That's why I hate when things get upgraded and gap up. It's so tricky. Got upgraded, came back in, just trying to hold this. If I was long this from the break of the descending channel here, this would have been my exit. Broke out, couldn't hold on a nice upgrade, and once it recrossed back below this 235, I would have been out. Now you got to see what happens next. You know, maybe it retests the 8-day here, and we'll see what happens. But as of right now, trade changed a little bit. Baidu also, you know, had your move from the double bottom here at like, what was this, 217, and now it seems like it's rolling back over. So I would be out of this too if I was trading it short term. You know, then some of the broken names, you know, like Amazon, Netflix, Google, Tesla, they had oversold bounces. some better than others. So if you started to short it too early, you might have got a little pushed around. But finally, Tesla, opened up, didn't give you a huge short, but gave you an up $2 to down a little bit back below the 200-day. Here was your, this was your short entry, the calculated one from off the charts at 240. Here was your first outside day to switch some gears. And then, now we'll see what happens. Does it hold above 216 and go sideways? Google, look at that move. Look at this 4-day move. Everyone, you had an overthrow move below this 520, got it off everyone's radar, reclaimed it, pushed to the 50-day. And I think some people were looking to short around this 542. If you did, and you're still short, maybe you get a little bit of a pullback to here. But overall, I think most people tried to short right here at 520 and they pushed the envelope, and now you got to see what's next. Overall, still below all the moving averages. If you were looking for some kind of long setup, you still haven't missed much. Every one of these quick moves have failed. So see for the first time if it actually gets sustained, and you'll know more into next year. Amazon, what'd you do today? If it can't rally now going into Christmas and New Year's, I don't think it's ever going to have an oversold bounce, but broke above this little pivot, held here. I guess in the next day or so, if it gets above there, it could rally a little bit, but look at all these moving averages. The stock has been broken ever since it got sold on Cyber Monday, so I don't think it's that interesting. Netflix also, what are you doing? You're kind of just hanging around here, trying to flag off of this engulfing bar, so maybe that could do something moving forward. The banks have been the place to be. I've been in Bank of America for this nice move, traded above this, now let it hold a little bit. Citigroup's a laggard, but perhaps it plays a little catch up. Tried to clear this. That was a new position today. I'm still in Bank of America, and this is a new one. I'd like to see it hold at least here to continue. Morgan Stanley, unfortunately, never went back to. That's been best in breed at highs already, so relative strength in Morgan, even stronger than Goldman, which is right back to highs. G-Pro, I bought yesterday. On this first day, sold it earlier, got in towards the end of the day. 2 days, you go to basic studies, you look at volume. Did close pretty well today on volume, so maybe there's another trade up to about 65-ish. It didn't sell off on the lockup, so maybe some shorts get squeezed. So, maybe that gets day 3. FireEye, played that also. Still looks pretty good, holding in there. Long consolidation. I'm hoping this thing does not break above this before the new year, because I do think that this is something you could position in for a move north of 40, maybe even close to 50. That's a nice percentage gain to start next year. Cyber, some guys were looking at that today. Still think it's good. Just had a 4-day move, pulled in today. I'd like to see this thing hold right around here to continue. And then there's oil. Oil to me becomes an obsession when it breaks thresholds. So 54 was the magic number for oil. It held it. Yesterday, it looked as if it was going to get back down there, and it didn't. Maybe a sign that the oil names like the XLE and the OAHs did not go down yesterday when oil was down 3-4%. Was a clue that oil wasn't going to break. You still have this USO, lower range here. It hasn't been violated yet. Everyone says oil has to break this lower range, so it'd be interesting if it doesn't, and it actually starts to squeeze back a little bit higher. Maybe crude gets back above the 60s, and then everyone's going to think they missed it, and then who knows if that turns into a paid trade next year. I would much rather see oil break 54, break 50, capitulate lower, create volatility, and give us some action for the first quarter next year, but we'll see how that goes. But for right now, while oil is above, what time is it real quick? While it is above 54, the market doesn't seem to care too much about it, and you've been getting a small lift in these energy names. Yesterday with oil down, it held in here and then closed up a little bit. See if it could get into this gap at some point. OAH is not as good, but holding above this area. We'll see what's next. Not really compelling trade, but we'll see. Russia pulled in a little bit. This was your capitulation lows with volume. Move off of there. Now if it starts to roll down, maybe the market will care about that too, as a lot of the headlines are about how they're going to be in a lot of trouble next year. We'll see. I guess especially if oil breaks below 54. And as I talk about Russia, I might as well mention gold. Gold looks very weak. A lot of guys got shorted yesterday on the break of this. Today it was up a little bit. If you sold some strength, you could have added to it. And now we'll see what happens if it breaks this area. If it breaks 112, there's really nothing back down to the lows here. So, I would be more on the short side versus long side if you had to be in the GLD, but it's very erratic and random, so you don't have to do anything. But this trend now broke to the downside, so see what's next. What did the TLTs do today with the big GDP number? Everyone's saying it's cooked. I don't know how the government could cook so many numbers. They think the jobs numbers are cooked, this is cooked, that's cooked. I guess everyone is so cynical out there, but you had this inside wedge, broke to the downside below the 8-day, closed in the lows. Maybe that's why the banks were so strong, and if you trade this technically, you probably got out right here. If you have a long-term thesis and you have a plan and an opinion, and you've been in it all year and you haven't traded it once, then you're probably still there. But on the 21-day is something that's been riding, pretty much ever since the last corrective move. So I would just be a bit careful if you don't have a long-term thesis here, because technically this looks like money left today, but we shall see. With all that said, I'll be in Short Hills tomorrow. Someone else will be doing the morning call. I'll be on the radio. You'll have an abbreviated note. I wish everyone a very happy holidays. Guys, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, do some fitness, have some fun, smile. It helps. Life's not so serious. If you're not where you want to be in 2014, work on where you want to go for 2015. You're not going to make your year up this week. You're better off getting your mind ready for next year. I do have a special on my 2015 thesis. It has 10 stock plays in there that could give you a head start on my game plan, what I'm looking for next year. It'll also go over the past year or two, giving you education on things that worked, why they worked, so you could actually write them down to help you figure out what could work next year when it triggers, because it's one thing to have a plan. The next thing is executing on it when the market confirms it. We all have a lot to work on. I thank you for being in my community. You guys add a lot of value to me and also make me smile on days that could be monotonous and just a bunch of red and green arrows, and everyone makes it much more than that. Have a great night and have a happy and Merry Christmas if I don't see you.